space here.
There we go.
Many hands.
Take a picture for me.
Oh, sure, for sure.
Good, good. From experience, at some point, this knows their sign inside. Probably one time. Yeah. Big photo, nationalist picture of one person. They're like, upside down.
Smile. One. Smile. Your kid is like, just go and watch it.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
Abraham coming or
Oh, they're waiting for the speakers.
I know, right? You guys like me practice.
We'll be here all day. Is it all day?
They not like
Hey, King.
¿Tú trabajas para Lyft o para Uber? Por el uno aplicas para Uber.
Keep it.
You want to see Uber Eats, me bloquearon.
Sing They Not Like Us.
They're not like Uber Eats. No se hace dinero.
We're ready. Ahora solo Lyft. Ahora es DoorDash. Sí, bueno, nada. Estaba malo este día.
Está bajo, sí. Hace mucho de emoción los güeyes a veces. Se suben. Todos los pinches clientes también te reportan todo rápido. Y otros güeyes quieren que uno te vaya a hablar porque te mete la pata en la otra que sí,
Algunos quieren fumar ahí.
no, yo los mando a la chingada. Si son viejas buenotas, que fumen sus chingaderas, pero no cigarros. Depende qué sabor, porque hay un sabor. Que no sacar aquí para siempre, que chingos.
Sí, estoy medio torcido.
Let's check back in.
The king is here.
It's Uber. Facebook. Uber is calling you. Come to America.
There it is. Coming America. Yes.
My son Hakeem walks.
My son, what?
Hakeem walks. King Jackson.
Your family watch you like.
Oh.
Baba, antes que yo no estoy
Aquí siempre he venido. Siempre he venido a las juntas. No he visto a otra persona. Primera vez que veo.
Ready? You are in action now.
Dos veces.
¿A mí?
Ahora salí hace tiempo y no fui. El otro se me queda.
How are you guys?
Just a quick
We'll take a photos.
ready if you want to just look at
about water when I go far. Which tower without her?
It's okay.
Yeah.
There's 3 speeches ahead of
Un Chevy Traverse. Bueno. Como es nuevo el güey. 2024. 24. Sí. También me gusta Spanish. El pedo. Ya está viejo. Allá vamos todos.
Well, hello, welcome everyone. My name is Greg Namacher and I'm the president of SEIU Local 26, a union of 8,000 property service and other workers in the Twin Cities here in Minnesota. So we are very excited today to come forward with the announcement of a historic step towards rideshare drivers winning a voice at the job. This is a really important immediate step for all the drivers behind us. We've been working on this for many months. Local 26 is a union that is used to organizing in industries and with workers that are traditionally excluded from traditional labor law, and so we are excited to be here standing with these drivers today. You know, we know that unions are more popular than ever. About 70% of the public supports folks being a part of unions, want to be a part of unions, and so it's only right that these drivers behind me have the same ability to form a union, to form the right to have a voice at the job. So a majority of the drivers in Minnesota are immigrants and people of color. They do work that many of us rely on, right? Whether that's folks in the disability community, people getting back and forth from hospitals, folks getting back and forth from the airport, right? This is a set of folks who give a very important service to our entire community. And yet they do not make enough to be able to really help their families and help their communities move forward. So we were proud to be a part of a driver-led coalition in the last 2 legislative sessions, and thanks to many of the folks here, including many of the legislative sponsors, to be able to win some first steps towards addressing some of these problems in the rideshare industry. Those were important first steps, but it's also clear that without a voice at the table, without a permanent voice where drivers can make sure that they are negotiating and figuring out how to make these jobs good jobs that can actually support their families, without that voice, these problems are going to continue to come back to the legislature. And the legislature does not need to be the HR of huge multi-million-dollar global corporations like Uber and Lyft. this is a path to be able to form a union so that these drivers can deal with those issues directly with the companies. So we want to thank the other legislators that are here today to show their support and to acknowledge the extraordinary leaders, both here who stand behind me, the drivers themselves, and also other community allies such as Satul, who are here with us. So first of all, thank you, all of you. Round of applause. So today we're going to hear from some of those drivers impacted from the SEIU Local 26 Driver Organizing Committee, and then hear from some of our legislative authors as well. So with that, the first speaker is Abdi Haibi. He is a rideshare driver and member of SEIU Local 26 already as a security officer. Abdi.
Thank you, Greg. My name is Abdi Haibe. I am security officer and member of executive board of SEIU Local 26, and I also have been share rider driver since 2014. I'm excited to be here today, and I'm excited to be here today as a share rider driver. As we launch in a process to able to have a union for share rider drivers. I have seen what the union means for my job as a security officer, where we want high pay and better benefits and more respect on the job. But as a share rider driver, I have seen things get worse, like the current member of my union. Rideshare drivers are mostly immigrants from people of color, and we have seen this company refuses to treat this work in respect it deserves. I was proud we won improvement in the capital last year for drivers, but setting minimum benefit isn't enough always. We're still struggling. Over the time, I have seen a pay rate change where the company are keeping more, and I've seen times where I cannot find a ride, and then I'm picking a passenger who says they have been waiting for so long. We have heard the drivers facing unsafe situation and getting no support from the companies. The whole system isn't working, and we having our drivers helping and make decision more. This decision will only make better. Being able to have a union would mean we could have a voice to stand up for fair pay and benefit, and have say in our workplace. I am a proud union member and have seen how much it has helped thousands of security like me in Minnesota. I am excited for our elected officials to update the law so the share ride drivers have the same opportunity as everyone else to have a union, so we can have a better respect in this job. Thank you.
Great, and next up is DeWitt, also a rideshare driver.
Thank you so much. My name is Dawit Kassa, D-A-W-I-T, and last name is Kassa, K-A-S-S-A. My name is Dawit Kassa, and I'm a rideshare driver and proud member of the SEIU Local 26 Driver Organizing Committee. I have driven since 2014 with a break to work at the bank and have been part of the fight to improve our industry over the last few years. After fighting at the capital for better wages and benefits, I was appointed to the Governor Task Force that ultimately recommended changes that were passed last year. I'm proud of being that work, but both my own personal experience and what I've heard as we have talked to hundreds of drivers over the last year is that no law is going to address all the issues we are facing from these giant companies. We need a union. I repeat it again, we need a union. We need a seat at the table so we can make sure this industry works for us. If it doesn't work for dedicated drivers like us, it will end up meaning worse service for passengers who rely on us to get to their destination safely. Our pay is still a burning issue, both how much we are getting paid and the transparency. Sometimes we hear a rider pays generous X amount of money, and we are only get unfair X amount of money. It is also an ongoing issue that drivers are falsely accused and deactivated because of riders who didn't like them, enforcing safety rules, or sometimes for no reason at all. I'm one of the victims of this, and I'm still deactivated and are not allowed to work for Uber since 2022. This is our job, and people don't understand that we can have it taken away at any time and not even have a clear understanding why. We know we have a big fight ahead of us, but we have shown over the last few years that rideshare drivers are not scared to stand up for what we believe. Now we will be working with our political champions to make sure state law is updated so drivers like me have the same chance to form a union, like everyone else, to make sure drivers have what we need to care for our families and ensure our riders have the best experience possible. We know a union is the only way to make this possible, and we are ready to make that a reality. Let me end my sayings by saying collective voices can make a loud, hearable sound. One more time again, a collective voices can make a loud, hearable sounds. Thank you.
Thank you, Dawit. Now to Brad Lito from the AFL-CIO.
Thank you. As Greg said, my name is Brad Leto, and I'm Secretary-Treasurer of the Minnesota AFL-CIO. The state's federation, more than 1,000 local unions represent more than 300,000 working people from every corner of the state, every walk of life, and nearly every job. And all of these folks from SEIU we've worked with them for years, and now they are actually affiliated with the national AFL-CIO, which means there's even more power. As billionaires take more and more power in this country, working people everywhere are coming to the same conclusion that these rideshare drivers have. It's better in a union. We saw in the last few years rideshare drivers organized to win improvements to pay and benefits, which has been mentioned, but we know the best solution to winning fair jobs is having a union so workers can negotiate with these companies and sign a contract. We are proud to be here today, and I am proud to be here today in support of working with legislators pushing to fix this issue to make it clear that rideshare drivers have the same right that most workers have to choose whether to form a union. Rideshare drivers do critical work every day, getting Minnesotans safely to and from their destination, medical appointments, and everything else. And they deserve better than what they are currently facing. Minnesota's labor movement is proud to stand with these workers because we believe that every worker should have the right to a union. And we're excited that this bill, if passed, would give them that right. Thank you very much.
All right. Well, thank you. And now I want to turn it over to our bill authors to just talk a little bit about the bill.
Good morning, and I am Representative Samakab Hussein, District 65A, first name S-A-M-A-K-A-B, last name H-U-S-S-E-I-N. I'm honored to be here with the community and the unions, and I'm excited to be part of the history today. Unions are the backbone of America, and the fairness, protecting workers' rights, and ensuring that every voice is heard in the fight, whether it's a dignity, economic justice, and opportunity for all. Minnesotan rideshare drivers keep our community moving, but they still do not have a real voice in the industry that they support and they are passionate about. Last year, we made progress toward fair wage, but big rideshare companies continue to do the bare minimum while making billions. It is time for change. This bill will give drivers the right to reform union and negotiate fair pay and protections, like just any other workers. We are following model that worked in Massachusetts, and we try to implement it, the same model right here in Minnesota, which is people voted for it. If drivers to choose unionized, they can negotiate one contract with all rideshare companies voted on drivers across the state. This bill will create a real accountability and stop companies from expelling drivers or misleading the public. Let's be clear, this will not hurt any communities that depend on rideshare drivers. The real problem is corporate greed, not drivers asking for fair treatment. This bill is about fairness, dignity, and economic justice. And that's what the drivers has been asking for the last 2 years and beyond that. And this will address that issue that we are coming together today. This bill is being drafted now and will be introduced this session. Lawmakers must listen to drivers, hear their concern, and work with those people that are vulnerable for better future. Let's get this done and move forward for our drivers. And
good morning, everybody. I am Senator Saida Mohammed. I represent Senate District 63, and to spell that, it's Z-A-Y-N-A-B, Mohammed, M-O-H-A-M-E-D. Last year's legislation was an important step forward. Last year's legislation was an important step toward fair wages and better treatment for Uber and Lyft drivers, but the fight isn't over. Multi-billion-dollar rideshare companies continue to do the bare minimum while making massive profits off of the backs of hard-working drivers. Drivers provide an essential service to Minnesotans and deserve a say in their working conditions. Giving rideshare drivers the right to form a union is then the next step forward, and they are calling for us to help solve that issue. Rideshare companies set the pay rates, policies without driver input, leaving workers vulnerable to low wages, an unfair deactivation, and poor working conditions. Many drivers feel that over recent years, the companies have taken a bigger and bigger percentage of what customers pay, leaving drivers with less. Fair wages and rights at work shouldn't be optional. Drivers deserve a voice at work. Drivers still face barriers in enforcing basic protections from an employer that controls their work through an app. We know that these companies use misinformation and scare tactics to divide our communities and pit drivers against riders, and we won't let that happen. Giving drivers power over their working conditions does not come at the expense of the communities that rely on this service. The real issue is and has always been corporate greed. Right now, labor law claims that these drivers don't have the right to form a union, like most workers, denying them the best path forward to fix the industry. The best way to hold these companies accountable is to give drivers a seat at the table. This bill creates a process for drivers to form a union and negotiate fair pay, benefits, and protections. At a time when unions are more popular than ever as a counterbalance to corporate greed, it is only fair that these drivers would have the same chance as other workers to form a union. We are following the same model. We are following the model passed by Massachusetts voters this fall, all while working to make a Minnesota-specific language to ensure that this bill meets the unique needs of our state. This bill sets up a process for drivers to petition to form a union, regardless of whether they are considered employees or independent contractors. Drivers are already putting in the work every day, and it is time they have a voice and power in the industry that they sustain. This bill will update the law to ensure that rideshare drivers have the same rights as other workers to collectively bargain for fair wages and better working conditions. And under this law, if drivers sign a petition and to form a union, they would negotiate with all TNC companies on a common contract that would then go to drivers statewide. It will ensure that drivers, not just executives, have a say in the policies that impact their livelihoods. It will establish accountability, like my House author said, for companies that continue to put profits over people. It will protect both drivers and communities that they serve. Corporations are the only ones. Corporations are the only ones who have always been exploiting vulnerable communities, not the workers trying to earn a living wage. And so the bottom line is that this bill is about fairness. Like Samba Cobb said, it is about dignity, and it is about economic justice for Minnesota rideshare drivers. A union gives drivers the power they need to fight for the wages and the right that they deserve. This bill is currently being drafted now, and you won't see a language just yet, and we expect it to be introduced hopefully this session. And we're hoping to get committee hearings. We hope that legislators will listen to the stories of what drivers have been saying over the last few years as they have been coming to the legislature. And with that, thank you. We will take questions.
Senator Mohammed, you said hopefully you'll get it introduced this session, and hopefully there'll be a committee hearing. Is there some uncertainty there?
There is not. The bill is currently being drafted, and so there are a lot of bills in the revisor's office. If we get it out in time, we will get it introduced, and we'll have a committee hearing.
Senator, you talked a little bit about the logistics of the bill. I wonder if you could talk sort of about what current labor organization law looks like in state statute, who is allowed to organize, and why rideshare drivers are not included currently.
Well, currently, and maybe I'll ask for a little bit of help under statute. So you want to talk about it in specific, what the statute says?
Good afternoon. My name is Samantha Diaz. I'm the political director for SEIU Local 26. Right now, these workers are in the gray area based on their classification as independent contractors. And so this is a process this allows a process and clarity to allow them the right to vote for a union like everyone else does. And so at the federal level, they are classified as independent contractors, and so this bill would not address that issue, but it would just make it clear that in their current situation, they finally would have the right to form a union.
And just to kind of bounce off that, I mean, would the language in this legislation, if anybody can answer this, reflect that for all independent contractors, not just rideshare drivers?
This legislation? This legislation is specific for rideshare drivers.
So other independent contractors would not be allowed to bargain?
This is specifically for rideshare drivers.
Why not just make Uber and Lyft drivers employees, and then they can unionize the way that all other workers unionize?
Just like the bill did last year, there's just not an issue that was going to be addressed in the legislation. So, and that's what we're doing this year by not addressing it in this particular bill.
Would this also be in the form of a ballot measure like Massachusetts was, or?
So this is, so the ballot measure, it is just like the form and the system of the state out there. But for us here, that's the ballot initiative just is how it worked out in Massachusetts. Here, it's just, we're able to do this through state law.
And Max, maybe to address your question, if, Uber and Lyft drivers, if the companies are willing to come to the table and maybe think about what it means for them to actually consider these folks the employees that they are, then would be open to having that conversation.
And to add that into the bill has been, we're working on a drafting, and at the same time, any other bills, we'll have a conversation with my colleagues and to get this bill finished the line. So there's no difference than any other bills that we carried, because we have to engage both the Senate and the House. So we're doing, and we're having a conversation, both colleagues.
Can somebody address, the bill that passed last year that just went into effect? I'm hearing that, it sounds like maybe, and correct me if I'm mischaracterizing it, you guys are saying it falls short. I remember press conference, it was touted as a 20% 20% pay increase and that this was the strongest protections in America for rideshare drivers. So if that's true, why is this necessary then, if those protections are already in law?
Yeah, that's a really important question. Thank you for asking that. I think part of the reason is that bill that we passed last session did give these drivers a lot more than what they had in the past. I think the issue here is that right now they're not even able to negotiate with companies on what their future pay rates are going to be like, or what better working conditions are going to look like as we move forward. And so this gives them the power for them to be able to negotiate and form a union, so that they don't have to come back to the legislature every single year.
Would this bill nullify those protections? So by saying that, you know, you have a right to a union and collectively bargain, that it would make those provisions moot because the legislature does not have to intervene in any sort of setting pay floors or, you know, other protections that the law already requires?
I mean, the goal is for us to not always come back and sort of deal with companies. I think it's always good for companies to have employees that form a union for them to be at the table and solve the issues that they do have. I think 2 years ago when these drivers came, it was a very unique, particular situation. And I think this gives us the opportunity, doesn't take away anything that we did. Those policies did pass, and I think we all stand behind it. They're very good for our drivers. But moving forward, what does it look like 5-10 years from now? Are these folks going to come every year and ask for us to do a pay increase, or are we giving them the power for them to be able to negotiate with the companies?
And the drivers has been reaching out to us every year, and they have a concern, and the concern hasn't been addressed. And my colleague, Senator Zainab, say we need to give them a table so they can negotiate, and they don't have to come back to us every single year and ask for the union. Will take care of that opportunity.
Representative, we saw last year's rideshare bill, obviously very different, but it fell along party lines largely. In the House this year, you have to get at least one Republican on board. Do you think you can do that with this?
I am working so hard, and I have been having a conversation with my colleagues, both sides, and they are willing to learn the bill, and they will do what's the right for the people of Minnesota and protection for those drivers.
And maybe just to help with that, last year, Republicans did say they did not want to get in the business of companies and how they want to deal with their workers. This, we're giving the power back to the workers and to the companies for them to come to the table together.
And it will give them opportunity for them to sign in and show up for the people of Minnesota. So I've been having a lot of my colleagues on the Republican side and Democrat, and we are having a conversations about this bill like any other bill. So a lot of them are welcoming and willing to support this bill. So we will pass.
Would any drivers be willing to speak to now that the changes from that law are in effect? Like, have you seen your pay increase? The impacts of that legislation, are you feeling it? Can you describe what that looks like?
I think Saeed?
Yeah, I could say something about that. All right. Hello, my name is Saeed Mohammed. And yes, last year there was a bill that was passed, $1.28 per mile and 35 cents per minute. But the issue that we're having right now is the weeks that are getting delays of those pay. It's about 19 days for the drivers to get paid on the minimum wage. So that's the problem that we are facing.
The extra money or the new rate isn't being paid out until a couple weeks later?
Yeah, it's about 19 days. You know, drivers are right now, the trips or the rides that they get, they don't get about $1.28 and the 31 cents that was passed. So the companies take about 19 days or 14 days to put the minimum wage of the drivers for them to get the right minimum wage that they're supposed to get.
No, and I do want to reiterate that last year's bill was a very, very important first step, and this is a chance to have a democratic fight, a fight that the rideshare drivers can have and win on fair terms.
Maybe so you could answer that. Have you seen a change in demand at all? Either are there more drivers on the road commuting for riders or fewer riders because of the price increase?
Well, I don't know about the numbers of drivers that is in place. Probably we still have the same drivers that we had for the last 2 years, but definitely, I mean, there is more demands, and that needs to be, you know, it's not about the employees or the drivers that are in it. It's about the fair pay that they're supposed to get. I mean, there is enough works out there. The problem is that we're not getting the right treatment that we're supposed to get.
And,
Said, it's like SAID said.
and to add that into, when Uber and Lyft came to Minnesota, first, I have a brother who used to drive it, and they were used to treat him with respect and used to get paid on time, and, you know, the minimum wage was way better than what they're getting right now. And he's excited that the state of Minnesota has passed a bill that protected and making sure that they got a fair minimum wage. And a lot of drivers are excited to be enrolling and for the last year, the bills that we passed. But at the same time, we want to make sure that the protection is happening. So that's why we came together as unionized today.
Were there conversations the last couple of years about unionizing within the bill that passed last year, or was this a non-starter during those conversations 2 years ago, or like wanted to do this?
A lot of drivers has asked, and but we didn't have the opportunity. We was making sure that, you know, the fairness and fair pay and protections has happened. So we knew we coming back for this union, and we have opportunity to get this done today.
You can have
Would you
folks, maybe like one more, we'll have folks available afterwards, but I know some folks do have to go, so maybe one more question, then we'll make folks available for more questions afterwards.
Are drivers better off with the legislature negotiating for them or SEIU negotiating for them?
I think SEIU is I think drivers are better off forming a union and negotiating with their companies. This isn't about one specific union, it's about all unions and making sure that workers are protected under our laws.
And as you know, that the union is the backbone of America and has done a lot for workers and protections. And as a legislator, we want to make sure that they have opportunity to be at the table and not for us to negotiate on behalf. They will negotiate themselves on behalf.
Thank you.
When do we want it? Now. What do we want? Union. When do we want it? Now. What do we want? Union. When do we want it? Now. All right.
Right here, everybody. Right here. Hands up.
Up.
I'll be right behind you.
Up.
All right, squeeze in. I don't have There's too many of you.
Samantha, come here.
I'm right here. We're good. I got my spot.
All right, great. Y'all did great.
Thank you.
Well done, Senator.
Take this.
Good job, Senator.